To give my presentation some context, the first thing I'd like you to do is think back to when you were in school sitting in a classroom. Chances are the classroom may have looked something like this: 25, 35 desks all sitting in a row, probably facing the teacher. You may have had 1 or 2 desks sitting in the corner of the room where all of these so-called bad kids were stuck. Lessons were mostly teacher-directed. You'd have an instructor at the front of the classroom lecturing directly off the blackboard. All students had to raise their hand when told. They had to face a teacher. Maybe the teacher would get wild and move to the side blackboard and teach off the side blackboard. This is something that we could probably all relate to as well. Worksheet after worksheet after worksheet. And that doesn't lead to too many exciting times for kids, whether it's working out of the textbook or off of a worksheet. And when you get too much of that, this is what ends up happening. You get to see students who are not exactly engaged in their learning, and that's not exactly the dreams that we have for our own education or for our own children. And I'm going to argue that that does not have to happen anymore in today's education. We need to give kids opportunities to get out of their seats, move around, talk with each other, collaborate with each other, and get involved in hands-on learning whenever they can. And with simple instructions, kids can actually come up with wonderful, wonderful creations. Such as this one here. This was a challenge that my particular students did a couple of weeks ago. They were able to get outside, dig their hands into the earth, and create an earth home out of 25 natural materials. I had no idea that they would pick up logs and almost drop them and kill themselves, but that's another story for another day. And something else we have a chance to do is show students that teachers are no longer the only expert that they can ever connect with in the classroom. This is an example of Skype and Author. And it's a way that we can bring primary sources of information into our classroom. And here's another one right now. This is actually something called the First Lego League. And it's basically a way that kids can get involved with hands-on learning, create something, connect it to a computer, program a robot to actually perform tasks made out of Lego. I have 2 lenses that I'm looking at education. I look at it as a teacher and as a father. And these are my 2 young darlings. This is an older picture, and I look at their interests in cartoon when I look at the education system. This is not what we want to see, and this is something that we might all have been able to relate to. Picture yourself as parents and your child comes home with something, say math homework, and they sit down at the table and try to go through their math homework. That picture could have been the parent or the child. And then we have magic moments such as this, where children are given hands-on learning opportunities, and they create something, or maybe the parents helped create something, because we know what parents can be like with their kids learning when it involves something that's fun. I absolutely love this picture. Any chance that kids get to get up, involved, collaborating with others, developing social networking skills. I look at this. This is what I want for my kids. Not worksheets and textbooks all day long, all the time. Some of the ways that we make this happen. This is actually a screenshot of my Skype page. And Skype is basically a tool that has allowed my students to connect with students all over the world. It has allowed me to connect with other teachers all over the world, even as far away as Australia. Something else we do in class is called podcasting, where the kids create audio files, and we actually have our own classroom radio show, MP Radio. And we take our podcast, so rather than just doing language tasks over and over again, we actually publish to the internet. And I don't want to come across as somebody that is totally anti-textbook. Textbooks have their place, they will always have their place, but they aren't the only information source. Wikis are an example of how kids can create their own online content and basically create their own virtual textbook. And for people interested in engaging boys in class especially, not just the female students but the boys, this is one of the biggest success stories that I have seen, called bit strips. Kids create their own comic strips. And in the last 2 weeks, I've had 152 comics submitted to me alone. And that speaks for itself. How do I learn about all this? How do other people? How did I learn about this event tonight? Is through something such as Twitter. Being able to connect me with other people who share my own passions around the world has made the single biggest difference in my own professional development. And when I do see a resource, instead of going on a computer and saving it to my favorites, saving it to a social bookmarking site such as Delicious allows me to bookmark it and share the sites that I find with other educators around the world. And we also have video conferencing as well. And video conferencing, I have also mentioned Skype, and we can also use tools such as Adobe Connect to basically break down the walls of the classroom and bring other information sources into the room. And I wasn't thinking that this was my last slide already. I was intending for this to be my last slide. But this basically just focuses, again, on breaking down the walls and making this a global collaboration where the kids can connect with anybody worldwide and not just within the four walls of a classroom. And that 5 minutes was very fast. Wow.